Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Get It Done podcast, where it's about books, branding, and business for authors. I am your host, Ashley King, aka the Get It Done Queen, where I help people of faith tell their story and by writing a book and maximizing their reach through speaking and events. All right, so today we have another amazing, fabulous speaker, author, entrepreneur, debonair businesswoman that I've had the opportunity to be associated with through different events or groups. And so she is just amazing. And I'm very excited to hear about her book today. And I know you all are going to enjoy it as well. I'm going to introduce you all to the Miss Fabulous Jaira Williams, y'all. She is the author of Story of Strength. Y'all give her a warm welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome in, Miss Lady. Go ahead and tell the listeners who you are and more about yourself.
Well, my name is Jaira B. Williams. I'm an author, an inspiration pusher, and I'm also an entrepreneur. I have an online-based beauty brand, which is like my main business. But when I transitioned Jaira B into becoming an author and an inspiration pusher, I finished a novel titled The Story of Strength that I have been working on for a few years. And it's basically a book that is based around my life and my truth as I grew into living into my truth and my purpose. And it's built around different characters and different situations that are basically coping and going through different things in life. And they're finding their strengths and also going through their challenges and coming out strong in the end, pretty much. And it's a creative nonfiction novel, but it's pretty much based around me. So it has some true facts in it as well. And it's a really great book. I say that it's a millennial echo of the Waiting to Exhale movie. Because
Okay.
idea of how it's set up when I put it like that, because it's really good.
So tell us, I mean, since it's, based loosely off of your life events, tell us some of the things that some of the women go through, or exactly who would be more closely related to your actual life event, your character, who in the book would be more so related to you.
I feel like all of the characters will play a role in not just from me, but in different women's life. I feel like they will be able to connect with each one of the characters because they each go through different things that I feel like most women go through. Mm-hmm. And even if they haven't experienced that in particular thing, but I'm sure they have experienced something that they will be able to grasp hope to with one of the characters in the novel. I know for myself, it's based on tragedy. It has, death in their challenges, fear, self-confidence issues. There's just so many things in the book in one throughout the characters that I feel most women have gone through. And in the end, it kind of shows you how each one of them handled it and dealt with certain things and came out on top pretty much, and learning from each part of that life, if that part of their life and their transition through it all.
Definitely. So since you said, it kind of relates to a lot of women, or, a lot of women can understand these characters, what would you say, how does one heal after being hurt? After going through, like you said, tragedy, how could one heal? I mean, every woman's circumstance is different, but I guess I could just ask you then, how specifically did you heal from your tragedy?
I feel like what I learned is that I had to relive through everything that I've experienced. And even when I think that for me, when I thought that it was okay, everyone in my family, I'm the strong person in the family, because I didn't used to cry much. It just was like, oh, okay, it's part of life. I used to look at it like, well, that's life. But for me, it took me spending time and really evaluating myself. I can honestly say my healing point came when I'm active duty military, and I was overseas for another tour. But I went after a breakup that I had, and I'm not one that's normally in relationships and things. So that was like a big adjustment for me. And I was kind of really heartbroken. And that one thing kind of led me to just start all over in my mind as far as when my mother passed away. You know, I was there when she passed away. When my dad passed away, I was a 19-year-old planning a funeral by myself. When I moved out and the things and the challenges I had to go through within that itself, when I was younger, I had really bad skin issues and I was so self-conscious about, like I was so insecure about it, you know, and things how I came out of that, just different things like that. I started going back over in my mind to how did I get to this point? What would I have done differently? How can I change certain things in my relationship that I did so I won't do it again or not accept certain things again? Just kind of like a reevaluation. And I actually just had to go through and relive those moments and accept it. Like I have a quote that says, accept what you've ignored. And that's exactly where that quote came from, because you have to accept things, you know, you got to acknowledge them and then you have to accept them. And it's things that we ignore that we think we work through, but really we just bypassed it. And it still affects us in our adult years. And so everyone has a healing moment where they need to go back, reevaluate themselves, relive through something, and just forgive, forget, and move forward.
Was it hard for you to accept the things that, I guess, as I've heard before, you know, to help heal and move on, you have to accept your role in the situation? Was it hard for you to do?
I don't think it was. I think it was more so of first it was me really having to accept, well, did I even do anything wrong? You know, because most women try to put the blame on themselves and try to figure out, well, what did I do? When, how did I? Well, maybe if I would have, maybe this. And I really like looked and thought. And at first I was like, well, I really didn't do anything wrong. But the way I asked myself, it was, if I had the chance to redo certain things, what would I do differently for myself? I didn't look at the other person or anyone else. I just had to ask myself, like, for you, so you won't do this when you run into anyone else. What can you do for yourself? And that was the part where it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I could have done this differently, or maybe patience, things like that, you know. And I started to accept that, and it was easier once I asked myself the right question. Because when I asked myself the wrong question, it was like, well, I didn't do that. It wasn't my fault, you know. And I asked myself over, and I really thought about it, and it was easier to accept because it's a part of growth. And I was at that moment, I was healing and self-growing myself. So
I think growth is not restrictive of age.
right.
Because there are plenty of women, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s who, you know, have never healed, who've never done that self-reflective moment to actually, you know, heal and move on. So if you could, I mean, like, what are some signs of women that who have not healed? Like, you know, are they lashing out? Like, what are some signs that, I've been around some women that I was like, you a little bitter, like you haven't healed yet. But you know, what are some signs that you would say that you could tell just by, you know, kind of speaking with a woman that she really hasn't healed from her hurt yet?
For me, it's their reactions. It's like the reactions that, and even though I've never been like a quick reacting type of person, I'm more so emotional now that I'm an adult. I wasn't an emotional child whatsoever. I would look at people crying like, what's wrong? Like, what what you doing that for? Somebody died, you know, like it never really dawned on me certain things. But as an adult, and I look at other people that have probably not gone through that healing stage because either they don't know how, or they never like seek counseling, or not even counseling, just spoken to somebody. You know, you never really know what they need to do specifically, but they lash out, like how you said, lashing out, like their response to something. Like I have a close family member that if I mention a certain topic, I know by how her reaction that that's something that you need to go back and fix. It's kind of like no matter how long ago it's been, the reaction that you receive when you bring up certain things, or the feeling of thinking that you're going to look a certain way because you're so worried and concerned about other people's thoughts and opinions because you're not happy within yourself, because it really wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I don't play about my name and my business. Those are different things. But when it comes to certain like other stuff, it's kind of like you really have no control over it, and you're allowing people to control you by the way you're reacting to certain things. So that's how I can kind of sense when a woman and even a male hasn't even healed from certain things,
Yes.
because men have a way of silencing themselves and going into a shell and overthinking. And it's kind of like, how are you even what what you wonder, what have they gone through? But men are
Yeah.
a whole nother ball game when it comes to
Yeah,
healing
I
processes.
guess it's hard to get them to talk more.
Right.
As women, we're a little more talkative.
Give us a glass of wine and we'll get the loosening up a little bit.
Yeah, we're more easy to express ourselves, our feelings, and what we're going through, which I think is very good.
Mhm.
I would say, since this book is about these women, how important would you say is having like a sister circle, a friendship? I'm going to say of real women who would check you, because you can have some. Yes, I guess men, but yes, women who like, girl, whatever, they're very passive. But how important is to have some true friends that's going to check you about your attitude, about you being bitter, and about you lashing out? How important is that? Would you say?
I feel like it's very important. I feel like the thing with that though is the other person would have to understand, like you would have to accept when someone's doing that, and not look at it like, oh, such and such said this and that, I don't know who she, you know what I'm saying, and take it the wrong way, because it's kind of like I'm the friend that always say certain stuff, or I'm the friend that people like ask certain questions, and they'll know that I'm gonna give them the non-toxic answer, and they might not want the non-toxic answer. They might be like, I know that sounds right, but that's not what I want to do. I want to go and react,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's really important, and you have to want to trust those people. You can't just have a friend. You know how people have certain friends they tell certain things to and things like that. That means that you don't trust certain friends, or you just
Mhm.
don't trust them with certain information. But
Definitely.
I feel like it's a really good thing to have like a nice small circle. Doesn't even have to be anything big, but at least someone that you can expect to tell you when you're wrong, and you want them to tell you the same thing, because you should be the closest person to me and be able to tell me anything.
Okay. So, what would be the main takeaway if I was to read this modern day waiting to excel? What would be the takeaway for the reader for this book?
The takeaway from what I would love from the reader is for them to start their healing process, for them to really sit and reflect on themselves. Because in the back of it, I actually have a journal portion, and
Okay.
it says, start my process here. And it asks you different questions, things like your challenges versus your strengths, and
Really
what
good.
how can you master peace like PEACE, like things like that. It just gives you different questions to start asking yourself. And that's why I put it at the end of the book, because once you actually read it, then you kind of get the wind of what's going on here. So my takeaway is for them to just start healing from whatever it is they might not even know they need to heal from, and forgive, and just understand, and definitely change certain things about, and not even just change, but shift and maybe adjust certain things about themselves to better themselves. It's not to point fingers and make anybody to feel bad. It just kind of help you. It's a self-growth, a self-development type novel. So it's just based on
Yeah.
stories with different people, and it's really good. It's the niche is at the end. It's really at the end of it.
Okay. So, I mean, you said like three good things that hopefully I remember too, as far as forgiveness. I really
Mhm.
believe that is key as far as healing, forgiving others as well as forgiving yourself. And I
Right.
think when women or people are hurt, it's hard to forgive the other person because they're angry about what happened to them, and it's like they want the other person to feel their anger, to experience this hurt, but at the same time it's more so killing that person that's not able to
Right.
forgive. I mean, forgiveness is for the individual, not the person that has, I guess, done wrong or has hurt them. But
Hmm.
forgiveness. So I think that is definitely one topic that I've come across different people that, it's kind of hard for them to forgive. And I even had to forgive people that have hurt me. And it
Right.
definitely helps the healing. Oh my gosh, it was something in your book. Peace. That right there is like women all we all need to define our peace. I would say mine right now is definitely boundaries.
Right.
That kind of gives me peace, and definitely as far as boundaries in business and personal life, and definitely setting that and sticking to it. Because I said it, but I don't necessarily stick to it.
Mhm.
So everyone has the different things that will bring them peace. I mean, what is your thing that, kind of brings you peace, the thing that you need?
For me, honestly, live like my truth. Like it's so much that I've discovered within my life. I was adopted. I knew that at a very young age. Both of my parents that raised me, I had great parents. Both of them they passed away, and I have two other parents that are living. My biological father, he knew nothing about me. My biological mother, you would hear certain things, but I just met her last year. I looked out and I found her and I met her last year. Honestly, I can say that me coming and living in my peace, not my peace, but living in my truth, is kind of bringing me a peace of mind because you can think that it's not anything that bothers you. And honestly, it really, to me, I still don't feel like it was nothing that bothered me, but they came about. My biological father came about and found me once he heard about me. And that kind of gave me the boost of like, well, let me find her and just ask her a couple questions. But I can honestly say it was a great thing to do because it kind of gives you a different look on stuff. And I feel like that's a part of my life. And when I say I want to, and I also like call myself a truth seeker because some people don't live in their truth and they don't understand. When I say truth seekers, like find what really is lying beneath all of the physical, and let's understand what's really going on with ourselves. And if I don't know who I am, how can I really even find out who I'm going to be if I don't even know where the root of everything is coming from? So that has honestly been like a journey to, like, recently, a journey to my peace. Before, my peace was just like you said, boundaries, making sure my family was fine and working and just having my work level in order. But like now I can honestly say just getting to know my families. I have so many of them and I'm just opening up more and I'm shifting more and it's exciting. You know what I'm saying? It sometimes it's kind of frustrating because you're just like, I had parents. You have like that moment I can be around one of them and I'm like, and they're just so happy and I'm like, I had them on my head and I don't want to do this no more. And then I come out of that and I'm like, no, that's not, so you have your moments, but it's a part of growing. And it brings me peace to know that I feel like I did something good for them by at least even wanting or trying to be a part of their lives. So
And
that's pretty much my piece right there.
story is amazing. Like every time you speak, it's like, hey, the military, and thank you for your service. Then you adopt. It's like, girl, as you talk, just stuff keep unfolding more and more. It's like,
That's
oh,
it's in the book. It's like
yeah,
the
definitely
root
make sure
of
you
the
get the book.
book.
Well, speaking about that, I mean, where can people find the book?
So my book is located on Amazon. It's in ebook and it's in hard copy form. I also have it on my website, www.prettyminked.out.com, and it's MINKD. And that's my beauty site, but I also have my personal brand items on there. So you can also get signed copies on there from me.
Awesome. So one of the things I like to do before I end the podcast is definitely ask about the writing process. Because once again, this is about books, branding, and business for authors. So how hard was it for you? Because in essence, even though it's loosely based, around your life, it's still about you, in your life. How hard was it for you to open up and write this for others to read?
Actually, I started writing the book October 2016, and the book was titled Strength of a Woman. And I was going to base the book around different women in my life. I wasn't going to tell their business, but I feel like each of them had a story that could relate to other women and just to see how to show that everyone handles things differently, but they end up coming up on top. And I started writing it and I rewrite it. A year went by and I started trying to fix it and turn it into short stories. And then I was overseas and that's when certain things I started going through my healing process. And I realized when my biological dad was talking to me one day, he said, you know, your life is really like a story of strength in itself. We was having a regular conversation, had nothing to do with my book. And I didn't hear nothing he said after that because I had an epiphany. I said, the story is like me. It's me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm strength. And I got done with my book in not even 6 months.
That's what's
After
up.
I had started writing it 2 years prior, and I'm going through, I'm looking, I'm like, what is, like, I'm trying to fix it, how to put this here, put this there. But I was writing about the wrong thing. I needed to start with myself before I try to write about someone else. So I started with myself, and it was hard. It was easy for me to write it. I wrote it out. I wrote this, I wrote that, and then I got with my editor. And I remember when I met you, I was in the process of just beginning to write this novel. I had already had one, and I believe I was trying to speak to you about either that one or this one because I knew I was going to need assistance. I just didn't know how. But I started writing it, and I came across this good editor I was introduced to. And she was the one who pretty much gave me the push behind even, I didn't even want to read it. I could sit here and type. But when she edited it and sent it to me to read, I was like, 2 weeks later, and she was like, I need, you know, we got deadlines. And I'm like, give me another couple days. Like, I could not go back to my own book that I've been sitting here and worked on and read it. And it was just like, so that part was hard for me. But I did it. And when I started reading, I'm like, dang, you know, when she put it together and it was an actual book, it was like, dang, I'm good, you know. I was glad, but it was hard because I feel like it was about me. So I would read it, I would get teary-eyed, I would read it, and I would visualize certain things, and it's like, but when I read the things in there that I knew was kind of like upping it up a little bit, it was like, okay, yeah, this sound good.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you're writing about yourself, but I feel like the outcome in the end is what is like that's the win. That's like my win right there.
Yes, yes. A lot of authors that I come across, I'm gonna say someone say a lot of times, but some of the times they want to write a book, but they're not ready because they haven't healed.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes time to write, you know, their life, they're reliving it in a sense where it's negative. And I've learned that pretty much from my very first client, because she was like, I can't write anymore. Like, I have to pause. And so we just had to pray and work it through it, because when you're reliving that and you haven't healed, you're opening up the wound again. So I think
Right.
your dad just gave that, you know, that word, that title, and you were already kind of healing or working on yourself. Perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
Because are healed is so much easier, you know, to write and just birth the book. So if you had to do something over again in the self-publishing process, what would you do? What would it be, and what would you do differently?
If I had to do something over again in the self-publishing process, I would probably not self-publish. I would probably research more of how to market myself. Because I knew what I had in the beginning. I knew what I needed to do in the beginning. But as far as a continuing thing, I even had a book I ordered. And I, due to work, you know, I couldn't even really do what the book needed me to do because I still had to work. And it's kind of like, I just didn't know what more things to do because at first I didn't know if I'm going to am I going to give too much away? Am I going to, you know, I just didn't know if I'm going to tell the story. I wanted them to read it and I didn't know how to really push it. So I could say marketing myself in my self-published process, I wish I would have knew a little bit more. He asked me what would I do differently.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably get someone to do it for me. I would probably get someone to do it for me. But once I learned the things I did learn, you know, about Kindle, like Amazon, and like, oh, I can print my books through here. It was kind of exciting. Like, oh, I can do this by myself, you know. And I was sticking to a budget and things like that. But I feel like now, or more so that I'm closer to getting out of the military, this is like the perfect time for me to start. Like I've started, but this is the perfect time for me to really get my book out there more and start speaking about it more, doing different things, because now I would have it's not like I have time to do what I need to do with it. It's not like I launched the book and released it and I'm like in the army 24/7. Like I feel like something getting closer to getting out, I can do everything I need to do, and it'd be like it's a new book on the shelf. Like it's not too late for me to, do what I need to do with it.
Definitely. One of the things I have on my website is if you write it, they will not come. Just like little things you build it. No, you have to market your book before, during, and after. So
Right.
definitely is a good tidbit that a lot of authors don't necessarily think about because they're so excited about publishing a book that publishing a book is just the beginning of it. Now you have it out there, you have to market it because people will not come. So, is there any last minute words that you would like to share with our audience?
I would just like for everyone to just find out when or what it is that you need to heal from. If you haven't gone through certain things, acknowledge it, accept it, and heal from it. Like even when you're forgiving, you don't have to forgive someone to their face. You can pray about it, tell God about it, just say it in the air. They don't have to know because it, like you said, is more so about the person, about you. So that's just my thing. What's your story of strength? Ask yourself that question and see how that starts your healing process.
All right. And one last time, where can they get the book?
You can find the Story of Strength on Amazon. It's available in paperback and ebook, and it's also available signed copies on my website, which is www.prettyminkd.out.com.
All right, all right, all right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Miss Jaira, for being on today, the Get It Done podcast. Definitely, I know I love the story of the strength, honey. Just your story, just the little tidbits you said today. It's like, girl, we gotta get that book, honey, because it seems like, honey, you definitely need to excel from all the stuff you've been through. So definitely, guys, you want to make sure you support Miss Williams and get her book and go to her website, Pretty Minks Out, or Amazon to purchase it. All right. So thank y'all so much for tuning in to another podcast, and y'all stay blessed. All right.
Thank you.